Hi, welcome all to this panel, Learning Law and Social Change. I'm very happy to be here moderating this conversation with our panelists and with you and you who are following us through Zoom. Our panelists today, Andrew Otine from Uganda. He's a PhD student in our course. Alida Steigler, who is also a PhD student in our course, and she's working on her PhD project. So we hope she'll be a PhD candidate soon. Soraya Roldan, who is a PhD candidate in sociology program of the University of Barcelona, and Julia Anne Borge, who is the leader of Rafto's educational department. She teaches and coordinates the project Future Pilot. She's here to reflect on, discuss on what we hear from our students, and also to give her inputs on the topic learning law and social change. Before we start our conversation, I would like to mention the idea behind developing this PhD course that we have, effects of Lawfare, courts and law as battlegrounds for social change, came when we first created the Bergen Exchanges as a space to discuss, and then academics based on research projects that we have at the center. And then we thought, well, this should be a space for PhD students also. This must be a place for PhD students also to contribute to this discussion. Not only PhD students, but then we thought that we should start this course. And in 2017, we had an important step towards really improving our further developing the course we teach, and also creating new courses, developing new courses. We received a grant from the Research Council of Norway, together with the Norwegian Agency for International Cooperation in Quality Enhancement on Higher Education, DIKU. The project is LawTransform Effects of Rights in Law. And we have partners from Brazil, South Africa, India, and the US. And then we also received another grant for the project Rethinking Democracy Law, and here the program with a partnership program with North America, together with Rafto, where Julia works. And very recently, we received another grant for the project Autocratization Dynamics, Innovation in Research Embedded Learning, with 12 partners from several countries, all the same countries that I mentioned, plus also Canada. And for this specific new project, students are the driving force, creating courses. They have this role. And so for us, this discussion today is very important. And it's not limited to just further developing the course we have now happening together as part of the Bergen Exchanges, but also thinking more broadly what can be done in relation to course to be developed. Course that we promise in this project, and we are very keen on developing together with PhD students. Maybe I should just mention what we've done so far in terms of achievements with this course, with the support from the Research Council and DIKU. Is, for example, we revised the program together with our partners. The literature release also, because then the partners are really contributing, suggesting readings, important readings, and partners from different places, from the global south. So this is also very important. And the exchanges itself here as a space where we had workshop projects. So students and researchers from partner institutions would contribute. And also to say that, as I mentioned, we had yesterday one session, evaluation session for the PhD course. And I say, well, your feedback is taken seriously. So it's the same what I say for this conversation today. It's really a low treasure for you to participate and share your opinions and suggestions, because this is what gives us, like inspiration to discuss and rethink what we do. So the course we have today, from mentoring sessions that we institutionalize, mentoring sessions, to starting the course much earlier than you did in previous years, to make sure that the readings, we go through the readings in another way with the students, meet the author sessions. All these are new things that we are doing based on the feedback that we got from students. So maybe I would like to start now asking Soraya, who came from Spain for the exchanges, to just say a few words on your experience and what are your reflections on this topic.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. My name is Soraya. My background academic is in politics. I'm doing my PhD in the University of Barcelona in sociology. And from this course about Lawfare, I have discovered a lot of things, okay? How important law is. I use law every day in my work, okay? But I think that university in general terms don't say to their students that the law is not only important for the lawyers. Law is important for all kind of university degrees, especially in the social science, okay? Because the social science students are the workers who are going to be more close with the citizenship, okay? And then they are also the connection between the institutions and the problems of the citizenship. They have the obligation to know very well what are the rules by one side, and by the other side, they have the obligation to inform correctly to everybody what are their own rights, okay? Depending of how these public workers do this job, the citizen can have an idea about how the institution is or can trust more or less in the institutions. And it's very important that the citizenship can trust in their institutions, in their state, okay? Because this trust can improve also the community, the community feeling of the country, of the zone, or of the society. And this kind of things can be done from every kind of worker, okay? It's not only lawyers, it's not only police, it's not only in the commune. It can be everywhere. It can be in the schools, it can be in the public transport, it can be in the, for example, in the cleaning service of the streets, or everywhere, under my point of view. And I think that in my case, in the university, in all my university experience, they don't have empowered enough the students to have this kind of thing, okay? Because sometimes someone studies psychology, for example, can be all degree, but they don't focus that this is important subject. Maybe they think that I have to approve that because this is a part of the curriculum, but that's all, okay? And I think that they have to give more focus about take care, because this is a thing important. And also some public workers can be involved sometimes in a lawfare, that this is what it has been connected with this course, and it's important to know that we are the public workers, we are working with the rights of the people. And also we are privileged because we are in the institutions. We know what are the problems of the people sometimes, and we know if the rules are according or they can solve the problems that the people have or not. Okay, and then we have the possibility to say, hey, take care, because what we are doing is not enough. Maybe we can do it more. I know that some institutions are more closed than others, or more anachronics. But in any case, the obligation of a good worker everywhere is try to provide the best service to the citizenship. This is the obligation, I think. Mm-hmm. And this is common in, under my opinion, in all social science. Okay, so I think this is important.
Yeah. We were discussing earlier in your mentioning this, that you see that the university has this role also to reach people who use the knowledge, this gap between what is done in the universities and in the institutions applying the law, right?
Yes.
So I feel that this also has to do with what you're trying to
Yes,
to say.
yes, yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. And what else? Well, it's important also, talking about my experience in my PhD, for example, public institutions has a lot of important data, and official data, of course, and so many times in my case, for my PhD, I'm using a public survey. Okay, it has been done along 20 years, every 5 years, and officially it's a survey that it's public. You can go to the web and check it, some results. But the microdata of this important and serious survey, you cannot use. I only can use because I'm part of this department of the government, okay? And I think that some institutions and institutions in general terms has to be more open to the university and to the academia, okay? Because I can have academic formation, I can have a PhD, and I can work in an institution, and I can do a good research, but responding to the requirements of my boss. And this is not a good research. And the good of the academia, the good of the academics in the university is that they maintain their own independence.
Yeah, so your point also is that if I understand correctly, is that there are institutions producing important data that we should be available for researchers to use.
Yes.
Yeah, very good.
Yes, sometimes the result could be good or could be bad. But in any case, it doesn't matter the results. The result is that we have detected something, I don't know what, but something that it can be modified to provide a better service to the society. This is what I think. And then I think the links between university or academics with the institution or companies have to be more worked. I don't know how to say, more developed, in order to have a good agreement, to consider to have more trust between each other, and then also can have more products. Because sometimes in academia, they are explaining what is happening about the story of some topic, every topic. Okay, what's happening along the time with this topic? How are they working? How work different countries? And it's interesting, of course, and it's necessary, of course. But if we want to do social change, social transformation, we sometimes, what we really need is local products. Products maybe smaller. It doesn't mean that it's easy, because I think it's not easy. but for academics could be, I don't know, less important because they could be not be cited as much as with other academic articles, but it could be important because is directly, you can apply directly to a social situation in any case, in a case, in a concrete place. And if there is a similar local problem, they can use like a mirror and make some adaptations to that in order to take profit, like a benchmarking or something similar.
Yeah, I understand. And this importance also looking at the local, what's happening in the local level.
Yes.
And then to have an understanding. This helps you have an understanding also more macro also.
Yes.
Very good point. Yes. So maybe we would invite now Alida, if you'd like to share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, most definitely. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. I'm not sure I will be the most structured, but I will try. And I think, my name is Alida. I'm from Hungary, and I have been with LawTransform, I think now on and, or like mostly on, but sometimes from Hungary for 3 years maybe. And well, maybe this will be emotional, but I think my comments will be first about students, and then also about LawTransform and maybe the network itself and how it helps, and also the course itself. So for me, I took this PhD course without being a PhD student. And I think it's also a great opportunity that it was not only open for PhD students, but also others as well to learn, because and that's also connected to my LawTransform experience, because for me, coming from Hungary, and I studied law, so my experience would be that I'm a student and I'm just listening to what my professor says. And if I were to maybe try to think outside of the box, that's not really super much appreciated. So for me, actually, and before coming here, I thought I was smart or something, but I think it took me actually a year, or I don't know how much time, to just start thinking for myself. Because I remember our very first meeting, and Siri already asked my opinion about something. And I was like, ooh, should I tell her, or do I even have an opinion? Like, what is this thing? And I mean, we have a lot of Norwegians here, so you can contradict me, but I feel that is very special here. And with this network, at least, that they really try to involve students and to give students a voice and an opinion. And yeah, it's, but it really does mean a lot, because I think really that's how you grow, and that's how you build. And also, for example, with the course and the content, I feel that, I mean, I studied law, but I really think that it was absolutely understudied or undertaught how law can be used, and that we can shape it. And also, I don't think that citizens within countries really have a good overview that law is something for us. And I think also throughout the PhD course, I mean, we had fabulous authors and professionals all over from the network. And it's just super inspiring, because also the whole network, you really feel that they are friends, they have good time together, they suffer together, and then they are also very happy for each other's achievement. And yeah, they sit down with me, they sit down with you. We are just students. Who are we? We are no one, but yeah, they listen to us. And yeah, so there is one thing, and also the content that, and yeah, I think what came through the course is that, yeah, we can try to do all kind of machinations with law, and it's really good that at least a few people know how law can be mobilized. But we cannot really reach change if the society is not following us on this path. And that's where I really think that there should be a way to, and I think involving students is a really good way from the start, because I really feel that students here in Norway, they feel like they can do something. Like, yeah, I can protest, like, and I can say that this decision by the government, I mean, of course, like we sometimes talk, of course we talk about what the government is doing, but it's mostly like, okay, so this is happening again. But here I really feel like I can be pissed. I can say that I want to do something. And you know what? I can do something. And you have to listen to me. And so I think from an early age to kind of make people understand that they can use law, they can use all kind of tools, and their will has to be followed is very important. So yeah, for me, that's what came through the course. And of course, I learned all kind of other things as well, and was very inspired. But yeah.
I would like to think something related about that. The opportunity to work with people around the world is very important, because of course, every country has their own priorities. Okay, we can understand, but we also have to understand that we cannot have the best academic researchers group and the best legal system of each country and to export it to other country, because it's not gonna, it's fail, okay? And it's important that the social change, the social transformation has to born from every country. And this is important why students around the world make or have experiences out of our country. Okay, we have to be much open, and we have to promote or participate in the social change or social transformation in our own territories, because we are the people who most understand our own culture and how to make this transfer or this implementation in our own territories, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so you mentioned this importance of having contact with also students from other places. And I think it's a wonderful way to welcome our student, Andrew, who is also a panelist. Andrew?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to address this issue. I share a lot of the views that my colleagues and the other panelists have expressed. I will start by saying that for me, this process has really been a positive learning experience, primarily because the approach was multidisciplinary. We all came from different geographical backgrounds and different academic backgrounds. So this pushed me to really get out of my comfort zone and explore new academic territory and new possibilities. So for instance, what I'm looking at for the project of this PhD course is more of child rights, but my actual background has always been use of force within human rights and generally armed conflict. Again, I found the space very collegial, very vibrant. You know, academic dialogue was permitted. In fact, I could say that you were allowed to challenge almost any idea that you did not kind of agree with. And even your own ideas were challenged, you know. So I cannot speak for everyone, but I can say most of us came out of this process with fresh initiative, you know, to kind of test new areas as well. But then in terms of reflection, I think for me, the issue on doing a PhD and sort of specialist training is about how to apply what we learn and what, you know, has been disseminated to us about how to go beyond being just a specialist and solving the problems that, you know, surround my community and our communities, the problems that they face. So how can we use our intellectual insights to do this? And we can clearly see that even during the Bergen exchange, we've had academics who also have some prior work experience in different fields, and this greatly enriched the discourse. So if you look at Uganda, for example, if I say I want to apply myself and my knowledge perhaps in human rights and use of force, some of the areas I will look at will invite backlash, you know. So if I want to research on something that is security, military related, you know, right now the topic in Uganda is political succession, political eliminations, electoral reform. Some of this invites backlash, you know. So then as a scholar, you are in a fix. Do I risk my life and study this and publish about it? Or do I take a more subtle kind of area to look at, you know, topics like, you know, Federation of East Africa, Uganda's economic progress. Those are very, very encouraged by the government. Then in a more general sense, I could also say that there are countries in Europe that have actually identified the cardinal importance of the law, and they are working hard to promote it through the rule of law and from a learning perspective. So you have Sweden, you have Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, France, in Uganda doing a lot of learning-based sort of dissemination of the law within the police force, within the universities, within the armed forces. And for me, this shows that all hope is not lost. There is still room to really use the law to bring about some social change. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Very inspiring, your talk. One of the things before we start with, we asked Julia to reflect on this great discussion here from the students. One of the things we see as a challenge is when you see Alida mentioning how she experienced the course and being part of LawTransform and the exchanges. For those who have been here earlier, this is really the social contact also is very important. And one of the challenges we have now with this reality of having students who are taking the course entirely through Zoom is how to make them feel that they are part of something, a group, you know, and this be closer to them. So this is very difficult, as I think Simon, who is also a student, was mentioning. When we talk from here already with this light, you know, in our eyes, so all these technical apparatus to make it possible to have a good session through Zoom also imposes challenges. And this is also something we'd like to reflect about. Once again, I would like to say that we'd love to have you all here, but due to Corona restrictions, this was not possible this year. Only a few students based in Bergen and those, a few who could come from Europe. But maybe also I should mention, because I see not everyone here knows about the course. So maybe I should have said at the beginning, these people here, they have been involved in a very intense course. They started on the 2nd of August. Going through the readings, discussing, writing collective reflection notes on these readings. And then they had one entire week with very long days, but very also stimulating discussions. And the Bergen exchanges are part of this course. Well, the course is part of the exchanges. And then they watch each day at least 3 events, but we see they are there almost all the time online. So, but the fact that we cannot really have everyone here, how can we do this? Because all this started last year. So how can you do this from now on? How can we make sure that they also feel part of this community, this feeling that they're also included? You'd like to say, Siri? Yeah. Do you have to turn? Yeah.
So I just want to, so thank you, this was amazing reflection so far. I just wanted to add a little bit, because I think, of course, one of the things when we do it digitally and hybrid like now, is that we can also have more people we can have more students from Brazil, we can have more students from India. So it's also, and I think, so there is also that benefit. So of course we couldn't have had everybody here because that we wouldn't have money to bring everyone. So there is also this, I think even in what we've learned is that there is also an interest in taking this course as a digital course. So I just wanted to sort of underline the need to both make it worthwhile to be here and to come, but also to think about how can we make, because I think one of the things that most people feel when they've been to the course is that they feel that they're part of a community that they can then draw on later as well. And we want that to happen, whether you're a researcher or a student or whatever. We want you to sort of feel that. So how can we do that digitally? How can we make that happen? How can we make sort of people feel that they're part of the community, but also really benefit from the course and the Bergen exchanges? Because I think we know how to do pure digital courses better than we did a year ago. And that works in a way, but the hybrid format, I think, is what we're still struggling with. How can that be sort of good for those who are here, but also good for those who are online? But so
yes, I think this is a wonderful time to include Julie in the discussion, as she has large experience on teaching. And so please, Julie.
Thank you very much. And I would like to start out by saying thank you for sharing your thoughts and feelings about taking part in this course. And I can recognize these feelings from when I was working on my PhD, also being a part of a community and a research school. It was very important. And the networking part of it, of course, as well. But also feeling like you have a sense of belonging, and if you're not there, people are asking, where are you? And that can happen digitally as well as physically. But while I was listening to you, I was thinking of different comments regarding different topics. So I was thinking it might be a good idea to start out with the content and maybe talk a little bit about methods, and then move to the digital new era, and then we can share our experiences when working with that. And what is very what could be a smart way of structuring the perspectives that we have on how we should start out planning a course is maybe the most obvious. What are the students supposed to learn? What kind of impact is it that we would like to have with the different courses that we develop? And I noticed you mentioned university lectures, and also I think both of you, as a method where students are supposed to sit still and repeat. So that is regarding what kind of methods we could develop, but it is always related to the impact, because it's maybe people have this conception that if we are supposed to be pedagogic in a way, you can't have lectures, but that's not true. Of course you can have lectures. It just depends on what you want the students to do. So I'm very glad that you, when you're sharing your thoughts, you're describing what the literature would call an open classroom climate, an open climate where you can express your opinions. You can learn to develop your opinions. The students can figure out, as you also said, do I mean something about this? Mm-hmm. What is my opinion? So when it and that's related to the content as well, because if education is supposed to lead to social change somehow or another, you need people who are able to critically think about what is going on. But much education also serves a different purpose, which is to sustain and uphold the status quo. And that brings me back to the point of the impact. Do you want social change, or do you want students socialized into supporting the system as it is today? Social change, of course, is about transformation. So when transforming, it can be very difficult because the system that we are used to is, of course, the transmission part of it. We have been going to school for many years, learning to behave the way the teacher tells us. We are learning to sit still and do repetition assignments. And there's nothing wrong about that, but it depends on what kind of impact you want. If you want the students to be critically thinking and asking questions, and perhaps also discussing controversial issues, you need to facilitate those kinds of discussions. And to do that, we can have some methods might be better than other methods. It might seem kind of obvious, but it somehow somehow we all always have the traditional lecture system, even though one of the researchers in the pedagogical literature in Norway, he's saying that the problem in Norway, in Norwegian classrooms, is that the teacher is talking too much. So even though the teacher knows that by talking, he or she is kind of taking time from learning, from the student's active learning process, this is what is happening because it's what we are socialized into doing. It's natural for us, it's a norm. So that's why it's, even though it seems kind of easy, it's not in practice to change the system from within. And it needs to start with the school. But then again, the school is a part of the system. So the society needs to change before the school can change. But the society doesn't change because those people have been going to school. So that's kind of the problem. But these things are changing and developing. And there are many types of active learning methods. And that could be role play, that could be different kinds of debates or simulations, or like mock Congress, mock Supreme Court, different kinds of activities. But what we know is that if we use student self-reports, it might be that also they report that they don't like it because they think that this is just for fun, because they are used to the school system where they are told that sitting still and doing repetition assignments is what you learn from. So when they're studying from their exams, they would perhaps prefer not doing the different kinds of activities. To kind of sum up this so far, I'm thinking that the content is the main thing. What is it that we want to do with these different courses and with education, basically? What is it that we want to achieve? What is the impact that we want the students to have? And this is from kindergarten and up. And then secondly, how can we achieve this impact? And to know what kind of impact the different ideas about creating democratic citizens, or creating citizens for social change, or promoting social change, you need to you need to have research on the effects of the different learning methods, and active learning methods being one of them. One of these, yeah.
Maybe I just wanted to, I don't know if your next point is about digital teaching, but it's just these active methods. It's very impressive, the work that Rafto does. Maybe Julia is a little bit
Biased?
No, not biased, but humble, but not just saying, and we do this and that, you know. But since she's like this, I would say that I was there once. We had a conversation, and I'm very emotional like Alida, but we had a conversation, and then she was telling me they go to, I don't know, maybe 15 years, something like that, my impression. And they were discussing, they had like a role play, right, I think. And then one of them was like the policeman, another one was someone in jail. And there was this like, and they were laughing, they're having fun, as you say. But the story was that there was a person, an activist that was in jail, and they were discussing whether this was correct, the measure, and they were really giving their opinion and reflecting about something, a story that they received as like a case for them to have this role play. And then she was telling me, right now, this group is going to meet this person from this story. I'm sorry, Susan, I'm worse than you. So, and I thought it was because I was, very pregnant, and I thought, no, I cannot be there because I would cry and I would just like be out of control. And I said, no, I'm leaving. But I see now that when I remember this, it's always very touched still. And then they say, they do all this, and then this person that they think, well, this, how can this happen? Yes. Our state or other states are doing this, and then this person is not only a case, a number, or a story, this person is here with us to tell. So this was an amazing experience, and this is a way of promoting social change, touching people. And I think you mentioned, Alida was mentioning something about emotions, and you also, when you started, you say your experience emotions, because emotions are also part of learning and also changing, right? It's very important to have this in mind.
And what you're saying now is exactly also what is found in the literature on role play as a method. So it's increasing empathy, and it's an emotional experience of being someone else for a day. And then, of course, what you have in this very special case is also that you meet the Rafto Prize laureate. Sometimes the laureates are coming to the Rafto House, but of course we can't do that very often. But that is something we can do in the digital space. So when we tried out having role play in the digital space, we could invite the Rafto Prize laureates to come and join the discussion afterwards. And then what we have learned from the evaluation so far is that though it's a very special experience, it doesn't seem like what the students report is that it's not as engaging as they thought it would be to actually meet the person in real life. But it's fantastic. I have some of the quotes here. So it might be more difficult to engage students in the digital space and to feel the emotions, but it also gives the opportunity to invite more people who live around the world. And I would also just like to mention that before I came here, it was the first role play at the Rafto House, so that was actually quite emotional for me too, because we couldn't have role plays during the Corona times, but now the schools, they are working at the green level, which means that we could have the first role play today. So I was just listening to them when I left the Rafto House. And if I may, I would just like to present, I've interviewed some of the students participants in this role play. And one of the students, he said, we learned so much about the principle of distribution of power in school, in theory. It becomes very theoretical. And we notice immediately that there is no distribution of power in the role play. You see, like it's a big difference without it. That's what it's like in countries without the rule of law. So after the role play, I have felt what it's like, even though I was on the side of the people in charge, but still not the fear, but how it must be to be arrested and put in jail for no reason. So I learned a lot from that, how it works in practice without the principle of distribution of power. An example of what kind of impact are you looking for? The emotional empathy experience, the increased creativity, or to challenge attitudes, or to gain knowledge. And in this case, the student reported to a deeper understanding of the concept of both democracy, but also the division of power, why we need it.
Thank you very much. I think maybe we can start by inviting our audience to have more of a conversation here. Of course, we have other points, and well, I like to talk, but I like to hear as well. So if you'd like to comment, ask, suggest, please, please welcome. Okay. Can you turn, because then you stand, yeah, should turn the microphone.
It's very interesting to listen to you. And I think we have differences in teaching and teaching culture in different countries. I think in Germany, one point is now to educate pupils to have a critical mind. We sometimes even discuss that they learn too little substance, too little contents, and not enough contents, and do discuss too much. But anyway, and but you can never have enough of it. I'm teaching, I'm a lawyer, a bloody lawyer, but I'm in sociology of law. And this semester I've taught gender and law at the University of Cologne in a gender certificate course. And that was a very interesting experience for me because the students felt very critical, but almost each of them started their analysis. They had to talk about different subjects of gender and law. Well, that's all the old white man and the patriarchal capitalist system. And so they were opinionated, but it was a very narrow opinion. And I saw my role there to open up their minds, not to have this, what we call now, wokenism, but to see that there can be very many opinions and they may be good or bad. What's truth? They always wanted to have something which is right, but what is right, what is wrong, that can be negotiated. So it's really interesting to listen to you. And of course, you're also talking about educating about law. You can't start early enough. Yesterday evening, I told some of the young colleagues in 1980, as far as back as that, I've started to teach law at school too. We have a program in my federal state, but we do that for pupils of 14, 15. And we also can do it at primary school now. And this is a kind of grassroots education. And this is very important because you mentioned, what do people know about law? Of course, at school, you don't learn much. Maybe in, well, we have some social sciences course at school and politics course, but they do not really learn basic things about law, and they're very trivial and simple, but you have to know them and to know this is the law, and law is everywhere, as you mentioned. One colleague told me, when I start my lectures, I tell pupils, now tell me, what have you experienced about law in the morning when you get up? Please start. And other people say, I don't know. I buy a bread roll at the bakery. No, but it starts earlier. Your mother comes in to wake you up. So this is in the context of family law, your mother's duty to look after you. And then you open the tap for water. And this is about the contract with the water providing company, etc., etc. So it's very important to create this consciousness and also to make people think about what they can do. In my federal state, the Ministry of Justice had for a long time a brochure, das Recht ist für den Bürger da. Law is for the citizen. And so to give people the knowledge and to activate them. And what I learned here is that you are empowered. And this, of course, is brilliant. And about what you said, that your opinion was not asked when you were studying law. Over lunch, I overheard like that 3 young colleagues were discussing exactly the same thing, that in their university studies and their PhD studies, their mentors or teachers didn't want to hear their opinion. They wanted them to think the way they thought. I found that a little strange, because I always tell my students, if you have another opinion than I have, wonderful, then we can have critical discussions. But in law, I had another problem. I think in civil law, learning civil law is not really sexy. It's very dry. I've loved to learn English law, but civil law. And I had no opinion, because how could I have an opinion there? So it was not that my opinion was not asked, but it took me some time to have an opinion. And these were some loose thoughts about what I'd heard here and what went through my mind in listening to you. And so I learned this is a really important course and an important event, because everybody here is obviously discussing how empowering it is.
Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful contribution. Yes, Julie would like to comment also. And I think I would just like to mention, as you use the word empowering, I was remembering also, because every year we have this session, usually is the very first session, last session, of the Bergen Exchanges. And one of the things we heard 2 years ago was that the students, female students, were saying that they experienced this as a way of saying, well, there is a space for me in academia after being here. Of course, there are, these specific students were from Brazil, and of course, there are wonderful, great scholars in Brazil. We have one of them here with us, Catarina Barbieri, but this group of women driving, the leading research project, big research projects here, and this atmosphere also welcoming these students, they said, well, this feeling of empowerment, that there is a space for me in academia. I just think this was very strong. And this came in one of these discussions here with us. And also feedback from a colleague who is not here now, Ruth, was our keynote for the first day. And she was also saying that, well, you should create a brand for your course. And all this discussion also, when we discuss what are the values of LawTransform, we think, yes, generosity, and being demanding, that we want people to do good work, but also being generous when giving feedback. And all these aspects that are very important come from these discussions we have together. Really.
Yes, I would just like to make a small comment regarding the students' discussions. And sometimes the students, it might seem that they are just discussing too much, if I understand you correctly. And are they actually learning something from that? Because just saying your opinion in itself, is that enough? And that can also be relating to what kind of impact is it that you want? Do you want them expressing their opinions to make the open classroom climate? Or do you want them to learn something about the content that you are in which you are teaching? So in that case, the research on teaching on learning in social science and social studies makes a distinguishes between saying your opinion and saying your qualified opinion. So in order to get the qualified opinion, the discussion needs to be more than just a cafe chit chat talk
Yes.
in which you are discussing with your friends, which means that it would change the form of the discussion. But I know that this isn't the case in many classrooms, and that we need more research on what is actually going on in classrooms with regards to the discussion. Just having a discussion is not maybe in itself the same as sharing the qualified opinions about different matters.
Very good point. And then talking about classroom, this is a sort of classroom, including our 19 people who are with us. I was wondering whether, first, of course, you're also invited, but maybe I don't know if Andrew would like to say something to be part of engage in this conversation. You're free, it's just if you'd like, and also our other participants. There are several of our PhD students for the course online now following this session, so feel free to join. Andrew, would like to?
It's
You're muted.
Okay. Yeah, I would actually like to make a comment on what was it? When you talk about the classroom and role playing, I think I wanted to make a comment to say that I have actually seen it, but in adult education, for example. So in Uganda, I'm sure it's happening even in other classrooms, but my own experience was in an adult education setting. What do I mean by this? So as part of the effort to deploy personnel, military personnel in Somalia, Uganda was also required to train them in humanitarian law and human rights. But the challenge was this: most of them did not have an adequate or knowledgeable level of English. The language of instruction in the armed forces is Kiswahili. So then we had to translate all this material from English and humanitarian law to Kiswahili. But also, to make it apply further and be more realistic, we had to incorporate a lot of role playing, take the soldiers, some role play as civilians, to kind of bring in this discourse of distinction, proportionality on how they use force. So at an almost, I would say, NGO or humanitarian level, I've seen that role play does work. The challenge, though, is it's still important to kind of improve it with other modes as well, because in spite of the role play, some of these soldiers still went on to commit atrocities. Some would shoot civilians, some would pillage. So in reflection, it was then important to incorporate other methodologies. But I do agree, I concur that role play is a fundamental, I would say, has a fundamental place in a classroom and learning environment. Thank you.
Julie has also, yes.
Thank you. It's a completely different context, but I would like to comment still on what you say about how much can role play and taking part in a role play really have an effect on anyone. Maybe it lasts for 3 hours, maybe it lasts for 1 week. And I brought a quote from one study in which the conclusion was, this was after a Supreme Court simulation in which students had participated in selecting the nominees, and after this the study concluded that students gain an entirely new appreciation for the process of selecting judges to the highest court in the land. In doing so, they not only learn valuable information that they will retain for a time, but an experience that they will remember forever. And then, just as you're asking, how much effect can we really attribute to the role play and the simulation? But and that is something we also always should be aware of. Also, that no researcher really wants to find no impact. We would like to see that this has had an effect, but there are, of course, different methods that you can apply to doing a pre-study, post-study, etc., to control for the different factors. But I think what is perhaps the most important is just to take into consideration that the learning experience will mean different things for different people, and that people learn in different ways. And that's why we should always strive to make variations in our teaching.
Maybe this is also a good starting point for, I don't know, I know it's the project. There is one master's student and she's not here in the panel to tell about her project, but maybe you could say something about our collaboration for the Rethinking Democracy Law project that we have. In this idea of generating data to understand.
So the idea of that collaboration project is exactly to be more experiential in terms of learning methods and to conduct research on the different learning methods and to try to make this research available and to, in this case, the master student is working on a project of political mobilization among youth and the role that active learning methods play in that.
Very interesting. Yes. Now I think I could also like to. Katarina has a question just for me not to forget while Katarina is coming. You please approach. Is that I'm thinking how challenging can it be, the new project that maybe if Lisa Rackne would like to say a few words later, but she's a project leader of our new project that I mentioned here, Autocratization Dynamics. And I was thinking how challenging will it be for the PhD students to be like sitting in the driving force for courses, as we planned for this project. I was wondering, it would be nice to hear from the PhD students also, but please, Katarina.
Yeah, so if I can just take from your provocation about how it would be for the PhD candidates or the PhD students. I was listening to Siri and I was thinking, we all had very challenging 18 months, right? Trying to figure out how to put a lot of what we learned and what we've been trying to do as teachers and instructors from like student-based learning to perhaps dislocating a bit, the center from lectures to something else, or trying to everything what you said resonated with me because I come from an institution where these kinds of discussions are very much what we try to do every day, to try to teach law from a different perspective. And when we had to move to Zoom, and I think this is a bit what you've talked, we were a bit lost, right? And it's been very difficult, but we're getting a handle of it. And I would like just to reflect on the experience of the LawTransform and the Bergen Exchange on this hybrid form, because it is very challenging. I think maybe the students from the other side, the ones that are online, can share their experience with us and point us to where we can make it better. But at the same time, it is empowering and it is democratic, right? It opens. So I'm afraid that once things start going back to normal, we will lose that aspect, the democratic aspect. And thinking from the gender perspective, women, there are a lot of research showing how women that are doing their PhDs, it's usually, or some of them will have children, or some of them will have commitments of caring commitments, not necessarily children, that will drive them away from conferences. They will have if you come from the global south, you have no money to go to conferences or to attend, things that are important for your academic improvement. So I was just wondering, it's an invitation for a reflection of how we we learned from these 18 months. We learned from hybrid. For me, it was a pleasure actually to be in a hybrid event, but I know how it was for the other people on the other side of the screen. For, you know, it's difficult. It's a bit weird to have the light in your face, but I thought it was interesting. It was engaging, and we managed to have a conversation going. So I was pleasantly surprised with the experience, and I hope we can keep reflecting on this instead of losing what we gained in terms of democratization, empowerment, and obviously from someone going from the global south, even the possibility to be a part of. There are many of my students and friends watching this courses just because it was online. So I'm just, sorry, it's not a very coherent point, but it's just an invitation for us to not lose what we gain. Because we are waiting, we really want to go back to our old lives, but there was a lot of learning that we gained in the last 18 months regarding hybrid and how to move on from this, whatever the new normal is going to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Katarina. Yes. I was wondering if you'd like to.
Well, if would you like to say something?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm talking.
Yeah.
I think with Soraya, we were in a good position with, at least during this week, being able to be here physically during the Bergen exchanges. But we also did take the PhD course digitally. And that's also, like Esiri and Lara said yesterday, it's a plan to take forward just so to keep it more inclusive and more open for everyone. And what I can say on my experience is, because one of the questions here were that, can you form a community through digital forms? And I can say that it works. I remember meeting PhD students from the course. And for example, seeing you guys here during Bergen exchanges, like some of the PhD students who are here physically, I feel like I've known you guys for ages. And and I was thinking like, where do I, like, why do I feel like this? But so I think it absolutely works. So at least for me, I felt like there was this sense of partnership or partners in crime. And so I think there are ways to do it really badly, which I also have experience with, but I think it managed to work. And I think all the discussions and the common assignments that we had together, reflecting on each other's work, just seeing each other for hours on Zoom, so I think it's definitely a possibility. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that if I were to bump into someone randomly from the PhD course, I would be really happy to see them. And I was also really happy to see you guys sitting there. I was like, oh, so nice. So
I would like to also publicly give thanks for the excellent organization, all the facilities that they provide me. Okay,
Yes, I would
all
like
the
to,
team that is
thank you for
working.
giving me the chance to do what I should have done maybe at the first, the start. Gerda, please. We need to see you here on stage.
Yes,
For
yes.
this, thank you.
And I also started as a student in this course. It was in 2019. And then we had like completely different year. And then I started to help with organizing this course. And it was like completely different feeling of the course. And I thought that, okay, my task is just to do what I can best, just to facilitate students and to have this like community feeling. I don't know. And we try to like meeting spaces and Facebook groups and all kinds of things. I hope some things worked. But I also, what I felt positive in this completely digital year, that world has been like without borders, because we could have like more students, more scholars. I think it was possibility to have like broader like audience. But yeah, also for me, Bergen Exchanges is a place for creating relationships, and that part I think we are still like missing. But it's just a way to learn and to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Gedra. Again, there's never enough applause for Gedra. Yeah.
So I just want to say that you don't have any idea of how much of this is due to the other stuff. It just cannot be underestimated. Because I think, I mean, you mentioned that it's well organized, but it's a logistical nightmare to organize all of this. And I've got enough self-insight to know that I'm quite creative, but I'm not very organized. So it is extremely, it's been wonderful. And you've just taken it all to a new level. So really, this just can't be underestimated.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, we have, can you read, Mattea?
Yes. Okay.
Mattea, yes, so, well,
I can read. There are some comments from. It's not really gonna work. There are some comments from some of the PhD students in the chat, and I think the first one is from Livia. It says, I think inclusion is a main attribute for the PhD courses and Bergen Exchanges. I'm very glad to be part of this, having the chance to meet different colleagues around the world and great professors in the virtual rooms. Thank you, Siri, Lara, Gedra, and Anna for the amazing organization and space. And then from Colleen, this course has been a wonderful opportunity to meet and learn from people working in different jurisdictions with different lived experiences. It has been interesting to identify common struggles, build solidarity, and be encouraged to keep working on different issues that affect our countries and our global communities.
thank you so much, Livia and Colleen, for participating.
Can I add what thing?
Please.
Thanks to this great organization, I think the learning of this course, it has not been only in the panels and in the Zoom sessions. We have shared some time dining and in the coffee, in wherever, in the breaks, and we have got very interesting conversations and interchanging of opinions. And I think it's very inspiring for all of us, not only for the PhD concrete that you are doing. You also have the opportunity to provide to someone else an idea, material, or something else to can improve the results of their work, and this is the global, the result of global is much better than the result of only the classes, the panels, and the Zoom sessions.
Thank you.
I think it was you once said that LawTransform and Bergen Exchange is about exchanging views. And I think that was able to happen both on Zoom and here physically.
Very good. Would you like to? I was wondering if you were trying to. If you wish. Yes. Come listen. Yes. You're invited. You're invited. Yes.
There was time left, so I.
No, there is.
So Lara encouraged me to come and say a few words about the continuation of not only Bergen Exchanges, but the PhD programs as part of the Bergen Exchanges and coming out in LawTransform. And so the continuation continues, I suppose that's how we should say. But the new application that we have got funding for this spring brings together, I think it's 15 universities. 13, yeah, and from the US, Canada, Europe, and Latin America. And it is, what we really want to do is to create kind of a united, and we will try to sort of work together, both digitally and physically. But this time focusing on something that actually really relates to all of us.
And that is the new trends that we're seeing across the world of autocratization dynamics and how autocratization is driven forward by the use and by the mechanisms of law. And now, by focusing thematically on autocratization, I think a lot of what's been said here today has been really inspiring for me, who's going to be working with this together with my colleagues here, because there are so many dilemmas that you bring up. One of the dilemmas is, what kind of format? So hybridity creates maybe democracy, but also division. It could be that the people that are here have a different opinion, experience than the people who are that you become kind of a second-rate participant when you're on Zoom. There is also another element of security that we need to think more about, because we're getting into sensitive topics, and there are countries that are becoming more difficult, and so that are also issues that we need to think a lot more carefully about, I think. And then I also was very inspired by almost what all of you said, but also this thing about using the courses for thinking across empathy. Because I think reading about, listening to, autocratic experiences is very different. I mean, I just cannot fathom what it would be like to be a 20-year-old woman in Kabul who has gone to school, has gone to university, and now I have to burn all my certificates and pretend that it didn't happen out of fear of this uncertain future. Or like going to the bank, suddenly my money is worth nothing. My house, this is something as Norwegians, we have no understanding. Things for us, COVID, we knew we were going to be safe. There's never been a time there wasn't a bed in the hospitals. The reason why you see the kids running around the streets pretending like COVID doesn't exist is because we are so safe. And in our safety, we become maybe reckless and self-centered. And I think that's some of these things that I'm thinking that the Burton exchanges and the new PhD course that we will develop, and different courses, because there will be different courses in the various universities, it's really about trying to create this sort of real understanding of what this means. And also that there is a global responsibility around this. And, it's because another element that this autocratization dynamics are showing, the pandemic is showing, is how we become more and more self-centered and nationalistically oriented. So, yes, I believe, Julian, that teaching should be about encouraging social change. And so I'm going to be brave and say that. I know a lot of my colleagues would disagree with me. And, but because they would say that's political. And this is, in the United States, it's very difficult to have a political opinion in the classroom. And that's also going to be a challenge. And that's also going to be part of the discussions that we'll be having over the next years. How can we teach and encourage social change through teaching in this new environment? So I'm hoping that I will see you all again in various capacities over the next few years. And I think it's just super exciting that we're having this opportunity to really use this space of learning. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to showcase what's coming.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And about this project, it's really inspiring, because this idea of the PhD being the driving force for also creating courses was exactly what came out of one of the things from this course also. As I say, the feedback is taken seriously, and then now we're already developing what you have just asked, and the project has already got funding. So I felt, yes, we are in the right direction here. I think it's going to be a great challenge, because, as you say, not everyone is, Alida was mentioning, not everyone is challenged to really take this role, right? I think not institutions give this opportunity to PhD students. So I think we also, by having this project with so many partners, people with different experience can share and work together. I think this will be very, very important. I'm very positive and excited about this project. If you have a comment, and I have like the sign that we have 10 minutes. If you have questions and comments, you're welcome. Do we have from the audience here or online? Because, yeah, Anya, please, yes.
Thank you. My name is Anya Arjensen. I'm a postdoc at the Department of Sociology. And my question is just this: there is a gender division when you teach too, right? Because even though I ask all my students about their opinions, I think the male students are much easier to get to talk in a way. And I always find that a bit difficult because I want the female students to raise their voice. And I think, and I try to explain to them that, you know, if you saying something also is part of kind of the academic tradition that we bring on and we discuss both like orally, but in addition to the written parts. So, and even though I kind of really try to work with them on these issues, they are so reluctant. And if I ask for their like personal opinion, then I never get an answer. So I try to, you know, maybe you can give me, you know, one argument in favor of this position. I can maybe do that. It's always, and if I try to push them a little, then I get the feedback that it makes them feel awkward. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to ask you, like, are you discussing these things in this PhD teaching course, and how do you do it?
Well, yeah, I would like to invite maybe if Siri would like to comment also on this, or Giedre. But I would say that we have many female PhD students, and as far as I know, they participate a lot. And then we see here, this is all female panel, you know. Oh, sorry, Andrew. See the mistake we can make when people are not sitting with us. But in any case, I think if Siri would like to mention something about this specific topic, but I think at least the courses that I followed, because I didn't follow this specific year, they were very active, and they were the ones saying here in this last panel, there is a space for us in academia, and they were really, yeah.
So I think it's a super important issue. And I think it is also important at all levels, but maybe even more important with younger classes and bigger classes. I do think that there are sort of techniques that we develop. So I think one of the things is to let people speak in groups before discuss the question in groups before asking people to speak up. Because I think whether it's online or whether it's in the classroom, that really encourages people, because then you test it out. And then sometimes you can just convey then you can sort of assign a leader for each one or ask them to choose one. But if it's a problem that you only get the boys to then choose, then you can sort of say you need another one this time. But I think even if you're just talking to the person next to you, that helps. So I think that is one thing. But I also think that the fact that we've been very conscious in terms of sort of having a lot of women professors or researchers or participants to present in the course, and of course then you do that in your own course. So that wouldn't be a point, but that I think helps. But also to sort of have these in at least sort of at the exchanges, but also when presenting, try and have someone who just finished their PhD or are still working on their PhD present together with people who are very senior, so that you sort of do something with trying to sort of demonstrate as well that you can do something with power relations. So I think there are things that we can do, and that is something that we're not really talking about it, but partly because it hasn't been. It's not. I mean, there are always some students who are more active than others. That's inevitable. But there is no clear gender. There are also, I think, almost always more women than men who take the course, although it differs from year to year, and it's often quite even. But I think that so we haven't discussed it, but it's something that we for sure think about. Although I think we can do more here as well.
Yeah.
You want to say something?
Do you want me to say?
No, I just thought you were right.
It's our space, I could say.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, this is like, I've actually done research on this. So.
4 minutes. Right?
So now I just wanted to say, this is something that I've actually researched, and it is true that women and women students feel like if a girl speaks for 4 minutes, she feels like she's spoken for a long time, and everybody else feels like she's spoken for a long time. So if a boy speaks the same length, not only him, but everybody else, men and women, will think that he has spoken shorter than he actually has. There's actually quite interesting research on this. Women fear taking space, and many of you know that I've done experimental research in the classroom, on speaking time between male and female students, and it's pretty horrific numbers where I had 91% of the speaking time was taken up by male students in a more or less 50-50 big classroom. So, and this was experimental research. They didn't know that they would be. But so what I've learned from doing this some years back is that I use this in the classroom. I start the course when I start teaching, I show them these numbers and I have them discuss it. And I tell them why. Why is it that you feel like when a woman speaks, she speaks like, God, she's mumbling, she's talking, like I'm doing now, right? And why do we think it is like that? And what is the research on this? And just that awareness changes things completely. And it's actually, starting the semester, doing this in the introduction course, changes dynamics in the classroom. So it doesn't take that much. But it's really about creating awareness. So, this is one of my favorite subjects to talk about in my teaching. So thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, no, thank you, Anya. Yes, very much, because I have experienced this. And even living here, right, in Norway, sometimes I watch maybe a presentation, then I have a point to say, no, maybe it's not. No, well, I'm not really saying now. And then someone says it with, oh, very good point. And say, okay, Anya. But yeah, so I understand, and this is happening. I understand maybe younger is worse, but I think we have to really take this into consideration for the PhD course as well. So thank you. And I know Lisa is really this is a point for her, important point. Ulrike would like to say something. We have how many minutes?
One minute, just a minute.
Yeah, that's what you have.
I have to catch up on that. Let me encourage you, all of you, to take communication courses. I teach communication, mediation, negotiation to lawyers. And what I experience, and I've also experienced that, sorry to say, with you, that you have not spoken up. You spoke with a very low voice. It was difficult to listen to you. And if you want to make yourselves heard, please speak out loud enough and get yourself confidence. There's enough space, and take your space. But of course, we have a long religious history in our back. Paulus had already said that women have to be quiet in the forum. And we have an American literature about women's silence in classroom. And I'm an old lady, and I know from times when I tried to speak up in meetings of associations. For example, I've been trying to speak at lawyers' assemblies because I've been doing research on lawyers. And after 3 sentences, they hushed me. Yeah, it's all right. And then a man would stand up and would speak for a quarter of an hour, just nonsense, presenting himself. And you have to work against that and even say, sorry, let me please finish my argument. So this is what I want to give you.
We try exercise now, this provocation. This is time for us to learn. See? Yes. Now let us just sit properly. Thank you very much for your contribution. This is wonderful panel. Andrew and all our panelists here. And look at me.
We do appreciate men speaking as well.
Of course. Yeah. Yes.
No, We appreciate men speaking as well. We appreciate people speaking online because that is an extra hurdle. We appreciate perspectives from across the globe. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we can close thanking the panelists. Yes.